when I was talking to Jenny about today, she said, and we said it already, we're going to talk about perseverance. But as I was kind of in my prayer time, and I was praying to God about today, I really felt like he told me a few things. And the first thing he said was, you're here to encourage. You're here to uplift. My prayer is that this message, our few moments together, would encourage you, that it would uplift you, that it would revive you, it would launch you, and it would push you to continue a little bit longer. I also believe this, and I'm just going to say it. I'm going to take a walk on the wild side. I think that this message for some of you will hopefully resurrect you. What does that mean? I think that there's some people in here, this is a bold statement, you're dead. You're here, you're sitting at the table, you're breathing. You even look excited, but inside, you lost your fire. It's been a little difficult. You're showing up. You know, it is possible to show up and not be here. It's possible to get so ingrained in doing good that you lose your fire for the good that you've done. And I would venture to say some of you might be dead and you don't even realize it. You're just here. And you don't know why you feel the way you feel. But you want to be alive. And my prayer again is that for some of you, you would be resurrected. You would be revived. We talk about, the Asbury revival that's happening now, right? It's all over the news. It's excited. So a lot of people agree with it. Some people don't agree with it. But here's what we can all agree on. It is a phenomenon. It's like, what is happening? People are doing everything they can to define what revival is. But at the core of revival, it's just, it's something that was dead and it's being revived. Something that was dormant and it's being revived. A fire, right? But when you see college students coming from all over and people coming from all over to walk into a church. They said the lines, some of them takes them 2 hours to get in there. People are on fire for Jesus. That's what revival is. It's when people catch on fire again. And they're driving from all over just to be in the room, repenting at the altar, revived. Come on, that's my prayer. You would be revived. You would be revived into mission. You would be encouraged. You would be resurrected. When I went to the chosen site, first thing I saw was this. And can I be honest? I got revived. In my hotel room last night, looking again, and I've seen it for years, but I love this thing. We offer more than hope. I told you I got energy. I'm here. We offer more than hope. Who makes that statement? What could be better than hope? And we offer more than hope. Well, right? What could be more than hope? Assurance, right? I love this. We offer more than, I sat on that last night. I said, we offer more than a hope. Wow. We deliver assurance. What's assurance? Confidence. And I started to take myself into these homes with families that are caring for those. You use the word, and the least of these. You use that word in the car. Right? That's not an offensive term. I feel like that was me, right? I was the least of these, and then someone stepped in. It's what we're called to as believers, to step in. And I started thinking about these families and these parents that are focusing on some of the darkest areas. And I'm like, man, we're giving them confidence. assurance. Sure, they have hope, but we're stacking on top of hope confidence. And then I read this statement: we help children heal from abuse. I know you read it, and I know you're in it. But I think we all know this about organizations. I mean, I'm preaching the Bible every Sunday. And sometimes the scriptures that I've seen so many times, you just kind of get used to them. Does that make sense? You get so used to the scriptures, they lose their power a little bit. This is kind of what this, I mean, you've seen this, but I want you to just sit on this. And again, we're talking about being revived, resurrected, encouraged. Can we take this statement in? We help children heal. Kids, that's what you do. You help kids heal. Like me, I got a 8-month-old, little Sammy. That's his name. Which, and I don't have time because Jenny said I only got 40 minutes, so I got to move. But I don't have time to talk about the significance of being adopted and then having your own son. There are things being healed in me that I can't talk about it. I told my wife when we were in the birthing room, the hospital, I told her when we often go back on that day, I'm like, is this even real? I mean, that's where I was. You just got to understand, as a kid that didn't meet anyone besides my twin sister that looked like him. And even my twin didn't look like me because we're fraternal. Didn't meet anybody that looked like me until I was 25. And now this kid is coming at me. So when you tell me the idea we help people like little Sammy heal from abuse, can we just walk slowly through the statement? We help kids. We can just stop there. We help kids heal, another big word, from abuse and neglect. Abuse and neglect, two different things. Very powerful. This is what you do. Here's what I can tell you. Here's what I know. I'm in the hotel room last night and over the last few years reading We Offer More Than Hope. Stewing on the idea of we help kids heal from abuse. I'm tearing up in the room. I'm thinking about these families. And I'm on fire. And what I know about you, if you're in this room, is that when you read this for the first time, when you heard the idea, when, the 8 in Jenny, when you heard her speak and say, this is what we do, this is why we do it, you said, I'm all in. I'm all in. Some of you even said, I think I might give my life to see kids heal. I think I want to be on mission. Here's the question I have for you. How do we go from on mission to on life support? Can we just go ahead and go here? Because this is the tension we have to wrestle with today. We hear the statements, man, we offer more than hope. We provide assurance for parents. We stand in the gap for kids. We heal trauma. This is what we're helping to heal trauma. We're on mission. But yet, and this is organizations all around the globe, this isn't just a chosen problem. This is a nonprofit, do-good, on-mission problem that organizations have all around the country. You start off amazing. You are extremely excited. You want to change the world. The mission grips your heart, grabs your soul, and you give your life to it. And then when the burden of changing the world hits you, you all of a sudden, and I see it happen with individuals all the time, go from on mission to I'm on life support. I mean, I was all in until I got to my 50th call. I was all in until I was on the phone for 10 hours or counseling someone that's counseling someone else. And I'm trying to, I was all in until I actually had to hold the trauma in my hands. Until I actually had to sit down and have a conversation and go, let's talk about what happened when you were 12 and 11. Tell me the details. And now all of a sudden his story becomes your story. And we drift. That's the word. We subtly drift from being on fire to, and then Jenny says, we have more kids, we gotta help. You're like, huh? More? And she's like, yes, no, remember, we offer more than hope. And you're like, we do? I agree. I think, what does that mean? You're like, but there are more kids that need, but these kids over here, I'm just, and the challenge of the mission becomes life support. You're like, but I thought you were all in. I thought you wanted to see every kid changed. And the reality is the two can be true at the same time. We can want to see every kid change, and we can be tired. And we can be exhausted. The question is, how does this happen? It happens when perseverance is hard to find. That's what happens. When I'm counseling married couples, specifically premarital, I'm doing premarital with couples, and I've had to do a lot in the last 2 years. It's wild what happens when you become a pastor and everybody wants you to counsel. I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's only been 2 years, guys. And they're like, yeah, but we want to get married. Can you I'm like, all right, let me sit down. And it's interesting. I have 10 things I wish somebody would have told me before I got married. That's my marriage counselor. I'm saying we could go into, here's the 10 things. And that's enough. And number 5 on my 10 thing list is you got to find a third gear. Most of us, when we're single, we got 2. You got your first gear? Got it. Whew, that was a little hard. I'm going to go to second gear. And then if we get pushed past second gear, when we're single, I'm out. But when you're married, and you know this from those who have been married for a long time, you got to find a third gear. You can't leave after the second. And then I said, actually, you probably need to find a fourth gear, right? Perseverance. We often get off mission and on life support because most of us only have 2 gears. And we had 2 gears when we signed up. And then when Jenny said, we got to go a step further, or when our mission, or not even, when God says, we have to go here, there's a community that needs us. We're the only organization that does this, and they need us to do it well. Yes, we have to balance when, and you're like, but wait, I'm just a therapist. I just signed up. You had 2 gears, and now what God is requiring is that you would have 3 and 4. Perseverance. We have to get these other gears if we're going to fulfill the mission. The next question I want to ask, if perseverance is the answer, at least one of the answers to how we stay on mission instead of ending up on life support, how do we maintain a level of perseverance that gives us that 3rd and 4th gear? And many of you have heard this, but I want you to hear it in a new way. We got to get a why. And we have to understand our why. So Brad, my best friend, told you. And he really is my best friend. We're this is like baptism. We're doing it publicly. We're making a public declaration of our relationship. um, he told you, in summer of 2021, I planted Hillsong Atlanta. And before I planted Hillsong Atlanta, I was with Andy Stanley for 8 years. Had a podcast, a television show, the book, the Steve Harvey Moment happened. I think before we jumped into the Hillsong world, my show was in about 90 million homes on television and radio and broadcast. And it was in that process that me and Jenny met. So she met me, and when I'm in this space, I'm like, oh, things are building. We're telling the story. I'm meeting more individuals in this space. I'm like, man, we're changing the world. Talking about Chris Tomlin and other folks. I actually met Chris during that time, and things are going here. And then the idea is, oh my gosh, we're joining forces with Hillsong to be the first African-American pastors couple in the world. And we're like, God has a plan, right? We're extremely excited. We're like, this is it. We're on mission. We're ready. We get announced as the couple about 2 months later in October. And for 7 days, listen, 7 days, that's a big step. 7 days, we're on the cover of People magazine and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and the New York Times does an article, Black Enterprise. I'm like, what? This is insane. And overnight, we go from this national brand to now we're getting covered in international papers and magazines as the first African-American couple. This is also in response to George Floyd. For it's 2020, and we had just had George Floyd happen in June, and we're selling Hillsong on this idea of a multi-ethnic movement rooted in racial reconciliation as the church to stand on the front lines, and the world is starting to recognize we're excited. We're on mission. Yes. And for 7 days, it's unbelievable. And then day 8, Carl Lentz has a affair. And the media shifts in 7 days from me and Tony to Carl Lentz, and it doesn't stop for a year and a half. A year and a half. A year and a half. We launched the church 6 months into that. 2 months later, we get called into a meeting, and they say in the meeting, a documentary's coming out in 6 months on Discovery Plus. We're like, oh, okay. 2 months after the church has been planted. 6 months later, things continue. And honestly, we finally make the decision after council, hey, we're going to transition the church to another church. And I think when we announced we were leaving, the media was bigger than when we announced we were coming. And I don't know if you've ever been in a media storm before, but there's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of miswritten articles and misaligned headlines. And I think at one point I made the mistake of Googling my name. And I said, and one article read, Pastor resigns because of scandal, and it's my face. And I said, wait, how did I become the scandal? And people were calling my phone, did you have a scandal? Did you have a moral failure? I'm like, no, they have. And not to mention, we're talking about the idea of trauma, not to mention the trauma that's taking place within the congregation. My staff is losing their minds. They're talking about me. They're talking about my wife. The media's talking about us. I'm having to rewrite narratives. And we've just resigned, and we've got 2 weeks until this new church opens. And we're in Jamaica trying to rest. And I remember being in Jamaica depressed. Not the whole time. We did have a moment of rest. But I remember being depressed and Tony looking at me and saying, you don't have to do this. You don't need this. this wasn't your life before. It's draining you. It's impacting the family. But most importantly, I don't want to see you this way. As your wife, I'm giving you permission to go back on the road, let the church go. We don't need to transition this. You walked into this fire that you didn't create. And she walks out of the room and gets in the water. And here I am sitting in the hotel. I mean, the weight of the world on me. I don't know the last time I had smiled. I know that's hard to imagine. And as I'm soaking in probably what would be described as one of the darkest moments in my life, in this moment of crossroads, feeling the weight of the pressure, the Lord tells me to get on the internet. So I'm on the internet on my phone, and I'm scrolling on Instagram. And as I'm scrolling on Instagram, this clip pops up. And it's with Bishop Jakes and Stephen Furtick. Now, listen, I've seen this interview before. It's an hour interview. If you get a chance, go watch it. It's a great interview. But this clip is a 3-minute clip. On Instagram, you know, you go on Instagram and they're pulling like certain clips and then different things. And I'm looking at this clip. I mean, I'm pretty much sobbing. I'm not there yet. I'm just like, I think I'm done. Why would I keep doing this? Tony has just given me permission. And I click this clip and I start watching it. And the first thing Bishop Jake says is, hey, can I tell you a secret? He's in a room full of people. And Stephen Furtick says, yes. He says, I almost quit. And I'm like, he said, I almost quit. He said, I grew up in a small, this is Bishop T.D. Jakes. He said, you know, I grew up in a small town. I had 20 people in my church. I wasn't going after fame. I just wanted to be effective. And in me being effective, my platform grew. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this fame and I'm being talked about in the media. And I'm being lied on. And he said this, I'll never forget. I remember where I was and I remember what he said. And he said, I decided I don't need this. I'm famous. I'm this. I'm being effective. I'm helping lives. But this fame part and what comes with it, I don't want it. And he said this, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And he says, and I became depressed. And so obviously I'm losing it in the hotel room. He said, and I became depressed. And he said, and it got so bad, I'm on the road doing Woman Thou Art Loose. I'm preaching to stadiums and going back to my room and crying myself to sleep. And he says, as it continues, he does one more date and he decides, this is the day I don't want to go back to the hotel room and soak in my depression. So I'm just going to go to the green room so I don't just live in this depressive state. And I got to be around people. That's how dark it was for him. And he goes into the green room and he sits with the other pastors. He's quiet. He's smiling, right? He's really gone. As we talk about, some of you, you're gone, but you're here. And he's there and he's staring. And he says, the security comes to him from the green room and says, hey, there's a woman outside that wants to see you. And he's like, oh my God, here we go. He's like, okay, well, just tell her I'll be out. And he says, I didn't want to go out. I'm in a bad mood. I'll just wait her out. So he sits in there for an hour and hopes that she leaves. He's like, she's probably gone. I've left her out there for an hour. He gets up, he goes down. She's still there. He walks out of the room, and the woman is around 70 years old and walks up to him and says to him, Bishop, I've been waiting to talk to you. And he said, okay, thank you. And she says, I want to tell you a story. And he says, she's a small, shriveled up 70-year-old woman. And she says to him, I've been in the hospital for a year on life support, fighting for my life. And the only thing that kept me alive was your preaching. Ooh. And he says she looks him in the eyes and says to him, Bishop, it's not for them, it's for us. And he breaks down. He's crying with the woman. He goes back to his hotel room. And don't miss it. And he remembers his why. Because it can be hard to remember your why when things get difficult. It can be hard to remember why you signed up for this when you're in the mundane middle and it seems like the finish line is hard to find, and you didn't think it was going to take this long when you started the journey, and you didn't think it was going to be this difficult when you signed up, but God called you to a mission, God gave you a vision, and you dedicated your life to making a difference, and it can be hard to see it when the pressure is on, and here I am in Jamaica crying in the hotel room, and God says the reason you need to persevere, the reason you need to continue is because of who I've called you to. I know you don't like the media. I know you didn't sign up for the articles. I know you didn't sign up for the pressure. I know you weren't thinking about this. I know you didn't think it was going to be all of this. But I need you to continue because there's a generation that needs you. There's people I've called you to. Our country needs a change. And nobody said it was going to be easy. In fact, when you're changing the world, it usually isn't easy. And if we add this aspect of the Christian faith, we have to add that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But he says, I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly, which means that when you sign up to change the world, opposition signs up to stop you. So all of a sudden, this easy life that you're living gets harder when you're actually trying to make a difference. I just want to say to you, as I prepare to close, if you can remember your why when things get difficult, it'll give you a perseverance like never before. Here's what I'd love to give you. I'd love to give you a mental picture that when things get hard, I'd love for you to see a generation of kids like me and my friend staring at you saying, it's for us. Why do I need to send this other email? Why do I need to stay late? Why are we trying to take more ground? Why am I pushing? It's for us. I want to give you one scripture and I'm done because I told Jenny I would. This perhaps is Jesus's most distressing moment in which we can see perseverance like never before. And the reason I want to show you Jesus in his most distressing moment is so that you can see his humanity and hopefully take a cue from him as to how you need to be. And it says, so he left them and went away once more and prayed a third time. Where is he at? He's in the Garden of Gethsemane. So before this moment, Jesus has pleaded with the Father twice. He goes into the Garden of Gethsemane. He realizes he's moments away from the cross. The weight of the decision hits him. He knew this was going to happen. Again, he's been alive 30 years, 33 years. So he knew this moment would be what it was supposed to be. But now he's moments away. And theologians debate about what's happening with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. But what the agreement is that Jesus was so distressed, he was sweating blood. He's sweating blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. He pleads with the Father twice. He's on his knees. If you could take this cup away, not my will be done, your will be done. He goes out. He checks on the disciples. They're asleep. He goes back a second time. If you can take this cup away, he goes back, checks on the disciples. They're asleep. And he's in the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look, this perhaps is the most profound statement from Jesus in his most distressing moment. Look, the hour has come. Look, the hour has come. If you could take this cup away, take it. He's on his third round. Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. The statement I want you to focus on is this. Look, the hour has come. We watched Jesus go back and forth in his wrestling, and all of a sudden, something shifts in him. He's struggling at the pressure. Please, please, please. And all of a sudden, he makes a 180, and it's almost as if he comes to himself and says, look, the hour has come. There's a confidence, there's a renewed strength, there's an energy that says, I have to now go do this. I've wrestled long enough. Look, the time has come. He's telling the disciples, it's time for us to go. I must go and do what I've signed up to do. I'm done with the pressure. I've sulked long enough. Look, the hour has come. My question when I read this is always, I wonder what got into Jesus that made him get up and walk confidently. Ooh, don't miss that. Confidently to the cross. Confidently, look, the hour has come. We'll never know. But I just imagine that maybe he saw a vision of us saying to him, it's for us. And there was a perseverance that rose because he knew his why. Would you close your eyes? And with your eyes closed, would you just open your hands if you're comfortable? With your hands open, I'd love to pray for you. And the prayer that I want to pray for you is that you be revived, is that you be encouraged, you be renewed, that you remember your why. That when things get hard and it seems as if your role is minuscule in the overall strategy, that you would know that it's not, and that you would see a generation looking at you, pleading with you and begging you to stay the course and saying to you those words, it's for us. 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 We need what you do so that we can be what God's called us to be. God, I pray for every person with their hand open, that in this moment, you would give them a renewed strength. That for some of them, they would be revived in this moment. That a fire would rise up on the inside of them that would push them to commit a little longer, to stretch beyond their own capacity, to develop a wider capacity, to save a generation. God, you've called this room to important work. There are many rooms that exist, but perhaps this room is one of the most powerful rooms in our nation because of the significance. We help kids heal from trauma, from neglect. We offer more than hope. There's assurance that families would be able to continue, so that individuals like myself and my friends would have a new future. You've called for us to be the light to those in darkness, a city on a hill. You've called for us to be the good Samaritan. That when people are down, we would stop what we were doing. We would throw everything and we would pick them up, put them over our shoulder, carry them to safety, feed them, clothe them, and give them a place to stay. That we love radically. Let your perseverance be in us like never before, and let us be encouraged. In Jesus' name, amen.